Already heard from one or two at least that might not get to make it to one of them, but I'm going to share a screen.
And I just dropped in the drive a link to the document Johnny had emailed to you all earlier about the phase 2. So if you want to pull it up to be looking at it yourself, it's in the chat.
Mary, you're going to watch chat for us, aren't you?
Yep.
Everybody see the screen I'm sharing, just the overview?
Yep.
Okay, great. Okay, so just wanted to give us all an opportunity just to be able to, at least if nothing else, talk about kind of what's coming this next year. Got to send this out to you at the end of school, this last school year, just for the purpose of getting your wheels turning and letting everybody have an idea of dates. And we've tried to nail down as many dates as absolutely possible, and all the major dates that would be in person are on this overview. So you should be able to mark those in your calendars. Really excited about this next year. We were able to kind of amp things up a bit in terms of supports, and then with the action research phase, really excited about what your teams can do with that. Like we've said in the past, with action research, it doesn't have to be things that come from Silver and Strong, even though Silver and Strong will be helping us with some of this action research piece. But September 12th is the first day, and September 13th. And something before I forget it, I want to say too, where we're getting into the action research phase, you may be going to have resources or books or certain things that you're wanting to use a portion of the budget to help support your teachers in the action research phase, or in their classroom, or in the professional learning that they're leading. And the deeper learning grant, up to this point, you guys have primarily just had to worry about stipends, substitute cost, and travel. But the deeper learning grant is really restrictive. It's something we've been dealing with the whole time on this end. And so as you come up to things outside of stipends, travel, and substitutes, run it by me first, because I don't want you to be in a situation where you purchase something and then you come afterwards wanting the reimbursement, and I say, oh no, we're not able to reimburse that. So just keep that communication open between us. I will work my very hardest on this end to justify anything that you might would want or need, but we are having to kind of jump through some hoops with it. It's gotten a little more restrictive as we've gone along. But September 12th and 13th are kind of like last year, how we had a kickoff. This is our kickoff for phase 2. And so September 12th is all about school and district leaders. And so what we're really wanting to target there, especially, is your principals, is assistant principals, as well as district leaders that have coaches in their buildings. But it can also be even those schools that don't have coaches in their buildings. But we definitely want to make sure that the principals that will have those folks in their buildings. Now, it could be that your deeper learning coach is a coach that works across many schools also. And then it's also kind of what you're planning to do with this in your district. If you're wanting this to spread, more wide, it may be a good idea that you have absolutely every principal there. We'll send out registrations for this as we get closer, and that way we'll know how to prepare for numbers, so that we can be flexible in that. But day 2 is all about deeper learning coaches. And so what Dr. Silver and Rick had talked about is being able, and Dr. Silver is planning to be there on September 12th with us and 13th. And so what they had talked about is kind of letting principals, because principals engaged with us, at first last year, but then they were not necessarily a major part of the work as it went on. And so they were not getting exposed to maybe some of the same things the teachers were. And so the idea is to kind of give principals an idea of where their teachers, their coaches, deeper learning coaches have been, and kind of an idea of what this action research phase is going to look like, and give them a sample of what the coaches are going to see. And so then the second day is all about the deeper learning coaches and getting this started in terms of their action research. We talked really intently about, action research is scary at first because it has the word research. And so talked really intently with them about that. It kind of scares folks thinking, oh my gosh, do I have to do a dissertation or something like that? And it's not designed that way. It's designed for teachers in the school setting. And so you'll see this 3 M's talking about meaningful, manageable, measurable. And so those 3 M's are very important to us in the sense that what we do, we want it to be meaningful, but at the same time, we want it to be manageable for the teachers and the coaches in their settings. But then measurable in the sense that it has to be action research, but don't get scared away by measurable either. Teachers are doing that every day. It can take different forms. And so just know that that can be pretty flexible in how that happens as well.
And several of our teachers in our region were involved in the action research grants. So some of the teachers are not going to feel as intimidated, but some of our newer ones that are deeper learning that may not have been involved in the action research. I mean, there's a whole plethora of videos that they can go and see that are archived. But we do have Silver and Fisher working to help guide them through it in a phased process.
Yeah, and so one of the resources for that is, and it's down there in the note on this page, they'll receive a custom online action research suite. And so this is not meant to be as involved as last year's online suite. So don't think it's, as involved as that, but it's, you're having this kickoff, but what's their support going forward? You hate to just invite them in and say, okay, this is what action research is, and just simply send them off to go do action research, and all that's left is video for them to create telling us what they're planning to do. You want some supports in between. And so the online suite is to give that online support. But if we scroll on down to the next page, we'll have online sessions. So you've got that online suite that they're working through at their own pace, but then you're going to have some online sessions. We've scheduled those after school too, intentionally, so that we're trying to minimize their during the daytime that they have to be out. And so that would be like in the range of 3:45 to 6. And so you've got 3 online sessions. And so we're kind of heavy right at first on October and November because that's their planning. That's when they're working up to what are they going to try. And so then by December 8th, we would want a short video from them. We'll give more guidelines on that as we get into it, but it doesn't have to be terribly long. This can be in the 10 minutes or less, or even possibly 8 minutes or less, type of idea. But it's an opportunity for them to be able to share these ideas. It's also an opportunity for them to kind of show off what their plans are for this. Made it a video is, again, trying to minimize their time in terms of having to travel somewhere or something like that. But then in January, another learning session, because this is when they're actually beginning to do the action research. Now, it doesn't mean they can't start sooner, but we're at least producing kind of a skeleton of how they might fit into this. And so January 11th is all about, actually doing the action research, refinement of practice based on assessments and looking at things like this. And so then April 26th would be the video showcase that they would have due by April 26th, very similar to what they did for the video defense in terms of the project, what it's going to be. It's still in that range of 8 minutes or less, but then sharing what they learned. And so what we'll actually do is take all of these and put them in a repository to where folks can see these. We'll try to categorize them also so that we can take away some learning for everyone with this. But this piece of it is about is where they earn their stipend. So there's a $1,500 stipend for the action research piece, like we had talked about, and that's each semester. So that would be 3,000 total for the year. And so like we'd talked before, when you were looking at your budgets, this is 5,000 total across the 2 years, with the grant ending September 30 of 2024. And so you've got $1,500 each semester. Last semester, 1,500 these coming 2 semesters, and then 500 in the fall. And the whole notion of action research, again, is that how often do we learn about something, and then we just scale it up to whole district, whole school, but we never really try it out. And so that's kind of the idea of this. The action research is going to be able to be with either in their classroom. It could be actually the action research about something that they're doing with professional learning in the school. Even if it's already at district level, it could be something like that. But the thing that Silver and Strong will try to focus us on is try to make it very specific, make it manageable, not make it too big. Doesn't mean they can't be doing these other things, but what they actually do for the action research piece is kind of focus it down to be more manageable. But Rick's going to have office hours also for this that can schedule. I think it's 2 hours for the year for each district. And so that's something he'll be helping us to manage on when to schedule those, that if they want to get some additional help from him. Ms. Belcher and I are always available though for those kinds of things. Ms. Belcher?
I do have a question, because if I was in, and you all type in any question at any time, feel free to
Yes.
unmute or type in the chat if you have something, because we're very small and informal. But a question I would have right now, Johnny, is, okay, I have 3 deeper learning coaches in my district. So do all 3 of those coaches have to be focusing on the same action research, or can they each pick their own thing that they would want to? Because maybe I have one that really is looking at a particular tool of Silver in the Thoughtful Classroom that has been introduced, but then maybe another teacher likes a different tool, but then maybe I have this other teacher who's looking at project-based learning. Can they all 3 do different things, is my question.
Yeah, and so they can absolutely all 3 do different things, but it's not a bad idea to coordinate everyone either.
Right.
And
So
so it
that's
may
a
be
district
something.
decision.
It is, and of course that coordination, if you have more than one coach at a school, maybe it's a coordination within the school, but likely you've got folks spread out across different schools, and so it certainly could be beneficial for you to kind of bring them together, after this gets started with the action research, and kind of get a feel for what folks are thinking, or if you're thinking about a district initiative and each of them are a part of that. For the action research, though, we just want to make sure to be able to kind of focus it in a little bit more closely, and that way they can get the measurable piece of it. Yeah. And okay, so $1,500 for those 2 semesters, and then this is all about deeper learning coaches, and then the 2 video defenses working through the online suite during the fall semester, and then there being some office hours there as well. Is there any questions on that piece? Okay, now, so big picture, let me kind of go to this. The one concern is okay, we've got deeper learning coaches that have learned a lot of tools. Not that it can't go outside that, but at least they've learned some tools. We're wanting them to try that out to see what seems to be most beneficial. But a lot of our deeper learning coaches are in the classroom right now. And I know myself, when I came out of the classroom, it's a little different to work with adults than it is to work with students. And so many times, like if we look at the bottom of this page, you know, understanding the roles of a coach, how to build trust, how to position yourself as an instructional leader, how to provide concise, actionable feedback, how to lead learning clubs, how to conduct high impact professional learning. But we wanted to provide something that is all about just the skills of working with adults and coaching adults, because it is different. But we didn't want to all of a sudden throw on you, you know, an additional stipend to pay for, or to send this, put this on coaches if they're not getting compensated for it. So we are planning to do a $500 stipend for the coaching academy, but this is something that doesn't come out of your budget. This is something we're going to actually foot the bill for. And this would be in the fall. So winter of 2024, not the fall, sorry, the winter of 2024. And so there are, I believe this is what, 4 coaching sessions online. It looks like a lot more, but what that is 2 groups. So we're going to break deeper learning coaches into 2 groups. These are online, they are after school. And so you can see that, what, about a couple hours for 4 sessions. And so these are just solely focused on conversations and thoughts about being able to be a coach and work with adults. And the notion of placing it in the winter or in that spring semester is that, you know, the scale up piece of this is what you're working towards. And so these deeper learning coaches are working towards being able to scale this up to lead professional learning within the district, within their schools. And so we're hoping to have this kind of go, you know, kind of to kick them off into that next phase. So we would like for them to participate in this. If something happens that they just cannot do this, this is considered optional, but it's something that you might want to just kind of sell as this is part of it, because we could see this being really beneficial to them. But so that means that they're actually getting $1,500 each semester, but then this additional $500. So it's really $3,500 for the year, which means this $5,000 that we had talked about at the first, which is coming out of your budgets, there is this additional $500 that will go. So really $5,500 that we're actually footing the bill for. Is there any question on that? Okay. So big picture again. So we've got coaches, they've learned something, they're trying it out, they're going to scale it up. They're going to have a coaching academy, but what about our principals? So we've got a coaching academy, a principal academy, and then something we're calling the advanced implementation team. And so the principal academy is all about principals gaining kind of the same notion. We've given all these tools and strategies to teachers, but we really kind of have left principals out of this so far. And we would love to leave some tools and strategies that are specific for administrators. And so the notion would be, I know Ms. Belcher, you've given an example with like the evaluation tool and so on. Do you want to share that as maybe a possibility that can happen during this time?
Yeah. When we met with the team with Thoughtful Classroom, one of the things, you know, principals are coming from so many different backgrounds. And let's just be honest, the Danielson framework is huge that we utilize for it. It is tweaked and we've Kentucky-fied it for our evaluation. But I asked him, I said, you know, as a principal, so I have a teacher that's having trouble with 3B, which is questioning and discussion techniques. We all know that's sometimes teachers struggle with that one. To me, as a principal, something I would like to have is, if they're struggling with this and maybe they're developing, are there tools that they could show me that they could pick up and use the next day in their classroom? And they have like a document, and that is something that they're going to share with principals and tie it to that framework, so that if you are scoring and you see a teacher who needs more support in one of those components, they are matching up tools that the principal can share, which to me, you know, I would have loved to have had, you know, to be able to say, hey, why don't you try this and see, and let's see if you like this and how it works in your class, to help with questioning and discussion techniques or engagement. So that was one thing. When they shared that, I was like, okay, that's some, and I would really like, and I love it even more that it is not hard. It's something somebody can implement the next day. And so that was one of the things that I was really liking about this for our principals. And so that was just something, was a selling point to me.
Yeah, and so we know our principals are the instructional leaders of the building, but hopefully this is a way to also help them gain some tools around deeper learning so that they're not being left out and being able to support that work and to be able to be part of the picture of getting this out there. So the biggest thing, and one reason we have really been mindful of involving principals, is their time. So when we were thinking about this, we were thinking, okay, how can we minimize this, but make it still meaningful for them? And so these are hybrid sessions, meaning they can come to KVEC, but, Rick was a principal as well. And so we talked all about this, and we thought about lunch schedules and when the kids are coming to, coming to the school in the morning. And so maybe you're working the line on drop off, and then the principals are maybe working on after school pickup and things like that. And it seems like that there's kind of a sweet spot sometimes between that 9 to 11 mark. Now, it could be that if a principal has lunch duty, this starts to encroach on that 11 o'clock, but it is, what do we got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days.
And 6 with the kickoff.
With the kickoff. And so September 7th, and if you look at this, just to make you aware, the earliest date we had was September 12th up to this point, which is the kickoff with school principals and district leaders. But September 7th is a little earlier than that. So when you're thinking about your calendar, this would be the absolute first session. And the notion of this is to actually get that started before the kickoff. And Rick and Harvey was wanting to actually get to talk to them before that kickoff. And this can be certainly principals and assistant principals that have deeper learning coaches, but we would hope that this could be all principals. It could certainly be targeted towards your new principals. We know that we've got districts that have a lot of that. I heard just the other day, one of our districts, I think 6 or 7 new administrators in their district. But this is for experienced and new principals, assistant principals. It's everyone. And so you've got the kickoff on September 7th, kind of in that little sweet spot in the morning that they can join online. It isn't hybrid, it's just completely online. And then the other 5 sessions would be hybrid, where they could join online or also come over here to KVEC in the morning. Sometimes we thought if they were coming in person that it's good to have a half day because they can kind of still get back to the building by the end of the day. And so we're excited about this piece. Rick also wanted to add into this the option of 5 one-hour sessions where principals and assistant principals, and they also mentioned, and we mentioned, aspiring principals. You may have folks in your buildings that are kind of on a track to administration or would possibly be good administrators. That might be people also that you would want to include, but he'll be scheduling this. These are to be announced right now because we'll be working on scheduling this once things start. But this is an optional piece they could do where they work with him for an hour for 5 different sessions, and they schedule that. And it could be that they just come in for one of those, but that's another support. But just really trying to offer some supports for principals around these instructional tools and around deeper learning and being able to support the initiative in that way. Any questions on that piece? Okay. And then the advanced implementation team is this notion. So you've got deeper learning coaches. They've learned something, they've tried it. They're learning how to be a coach. They're going to scale it up. This is going to be your team that can put professional learning out there. You've given some support for the principals so that they can be better at their craft around these tools and strategies and what to look for and how to support teachers in this. But what are next steps always? How often have we got started in initiatives, learned a lot about them, and then it just kind of dies? And so the next steps can be kind of what Rick refers to as kind of building a guiding coalition. And so the notion is who's your next tier of adopters that can kind of help to get information out in the district, to kind of get things started, be a help to the deeper learning coach. And so it's almost like you're taking deeper learning coaches and you're going another tier of people that would surround them. And so these two sessions are about just kind of giving that initial, this is what we've done, this is what the tools are, this is how we can go ahead and start next steps. And you're kind of getting those first folks that you think would be good ones to help lead further. And so that will happen in February and March. Those would be in-person days. I'm sure we can still do that one hybrid. I don't see that we marked it there. But it's that notion of building that next tier of folks that can help. And so principals may be a big part of who those folks are, and them and the deeper learning coaches and yourself working to try to get that. But just trying in every way that we possibly can to build as many supports into this and not let this be something that kind of dies after we've just learned a few tools and strategies. And certainly we know that our deeper learning coaches, because we're hearing from them, that they're already trying some of these things in their classes and how well it's going. Some of our deeper learning coaches have actually moved into district kind of led positions or school positions that they're already starting to guide professional learning, but just trying our best to build those supports this year to help with that. Any questions on any of those pieces? So wanting to just give you at least an opportunity to ask questions, so let me kind of give an overview of what was happening before the chaos of school starting began. Kind of give you an idea of who to be talking to about trying to participate and win, and kind of building all that in place before it starts. But your first date would be what, September 7th would be an online for principals. Let me make sure. Yeah, so September 7th. Then the next dates would be 12th and 13th. And that kind of gives you something to be thinking about as you're trying to get folks aware of this. Registrations we'll start putting out closer to the times, and that'll give us an idea of how many folks to deal with or to have to be prepared for in terms of food and things like that. But we're really excited. This is, I think, could be an exciting year for deeper learning in this phase 2, and we're already hearing some great things that are happening in our districts around this. But any other questions? Ms. Belcher, what have I left out? The thing I did want to share with you too that I think I didn't say is when you're thinking about if there are things to spend outside of substitutes, travel, and then stipends, is getting that approval from me. But also, if you're using any of your money to actually pay for some professional learning, deeper learning grant requires we get those vendors approved. And they're wanting us to have all vendors approved by no later than October. And so if you do have some things happening that you're using some of your money to, say, invite someone in to lead some professional learning, just run that by me. Just to make sure that we can reimburse that. But those are just kind of some nuts and bolts things that I wanted to share. I can't think of anything else. Really was more about just that, and then also giving you an opportunity to ask.
The only thing I can think of is on your final page there, the implementation team, Johnny.
Yeah.
The one thing I'm thinking on that, so if you're asking these people to join and be a part of the team and they say, well, where's my stipend? Notice that these are happening during the school day. There is no outside work outside of the school day, no meetings outside of the school day, no platform to have to work through. It's just providing them with some professional learning around the tools. So that's why there's no stipend associated with that. Just want to make sure that of why you know, because if somebody was to ask, and you know, and I know that's always going to be a question, it's during the school day. And so they're already getting paid for that. It's a contract day for them, just school business. And there's no outside work for that implementation team would be the
Yeah.
only thing I would
Yeah.
think.
That was one of our first concerns when thinking about this is, we didn't have the money to add the additional stipends for this. And so we thought, can we ask people, that are not getting stipends to come out? And so that was the notion of having it during the school day. And then you travel and substitute costs certainly can be used, within your budget to help pay for that as well.
Yep.
So hopefully that'll allow that to still be a good option for you.
Do any of you all have any questions, or you might think of something later, but